It's Friday on the Arch Advocate Show. I am your host, Pete Dobson. Thank you so much for joining. Old Petey's got a brain teaser for you. That's how we're going to start off today's show. Thank you so much for joining the Arch Advocate podcast, either on SoundCloud, iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or even YouTube. However you got here, man, welcome. Or woman. Hashtag me too. Pound me too. Hey, listen, think about this for just a quick second. Now if you're driving, don't close your eyes to answer this question. But think about this for just a quick second, all right? Name one thing, all right? Now take this question. This is time to change your life question. Like we all feel this pressure to be a complete person today. But anybody who's put any amount of effort into working on yourself, whatever, you understand, like, it's a process. Right? There's a lot of work that goes into it, and it's never ending. You know what I mean? Like, you're never going to be done bettering yourself, right? So what do? You break it down to its, smallest component, right? So think about this. Like, name just one thing that you can do today, right? Now, don't get too far ahead of the question now. Let me break this. Let me repeat this question. Name one, not simple thing, but not hard either, but like a practical thing, one thing. Name one practical, accessible thing that you can do today to make your life worse, right? Think about that for a second. And one thing that you can do today to make your life worse. It can be anything. Maybe you could pick up the habit of smoking, right? That would do it. Although that would be kind of difficult because it's like, if you're in your 30s or 40s or even late 20s and you've never smoked a cigarette before or have never had an addiction to cigarettes, like, that's a tough one, I think. So, you know what, maybe you could do that, maybe not. Or maybe you could decide, like, today, from this day forward, I'm just going to take this one measure. And I'm just not going to pack a lunch anymore. I'm going to eat out for lunch. I'm going to instead of sitting around at work and talking with my friends, I'm going to get in my car and I'm going to drive down. And instead of eating like healthy, you're going to go to McDonald's. All right? From now on, every day, I'm going to eat a Big Mac and I'm going to or a quarter pounder with cheese. And I'm not going to get the wimpy one. I'm going to go supersize. I'm going to get the big ass thing of Coke with all that sugar in it. And I'm going to get the big ass fries because they're delicious. And I'm going to have a, $8 to $10 McDonald's meal. And I know that I'm going to feel like crap 15 minutes after I eat it. So that's one thing that you could do. It could be anything, right? Like, instead of, buying Dollar Shave Club, I'm going to go back to spending $30 for a bundle of razors at the drugstore. I'm going to go down to CVS and wait in that long-ass line so I can get that 10-foot long reel of receipts. And I'm going to spend $30 on razor blades, and I'm going to have to wait there, all pissed off and angry in front of the gun safe that is where they keep the razors. And I have to wait till the one CVS employee who's actually on duty comes around to unlock it and get me my razors. Like, that would be simple little things that you could do to make your life worse, right? But the list, I'm sure, is never ending. So think about that in there. Do you believe with all of your heart, right? Do you believe the way a Christian doth believe, right? Do you believe the way that Cher doth believe that there is life after love? Do you believe that there is something that you can do today to make your life worse? Like something that you could do that's accessible and practical and, you wouldn't have to work terribly hard at pulling it off. Okay? So I think you would agree, if you're listening to this, yes, there is things that you could do to make your life worse. Now, why did I say that? That's actually, like, if you're a fan of Zig Ziglar, you know that I just completely plagiarized that whole opening segment. Yeah, that's a Zig Ziglar thing. Because here's the point of all of that, is that if you believe that there's one thing that you can do today to make your life worse, then the converse is also true. There's one thing that you can do today to make your life better, right? Maybe instead of going to CVS and buying your razors there, you finally look into, one of these companies online that sells razors. It's just razors, people. I mean, it's, they didn't reinvent the wheel. They've just removed theft from the equation, and that's why razors are cheaper if you buy them from like Dollar Shave Club or that one German place or whatever. Right? They've removed shrinkage. That's the term for theft in a store. They've removed theft from the equation, and therefore they can sell it to you at a retail price that is closer to the wholesale price. That's why it's so much cheaper. It's not because it's a less valuable product. It's just that you can't steal online. You know what I mean? So, well, you can't steal those things online. Now, the reason I was saying that is this: like, look, if you believe that you can make your life worse, and you can believe that you can make your life better by making just one little adjustment, right, every day, then that also kind of leads you to a place of like, well, if that's the case, if I can eat McDonald's and make my life worse, right? Do you believe that? Right? If I start smoking today, that will make my life worse. Right? If I start spending more money on lunch, right? Going out to McDonald's and spending $10 as opposed to packing a lunch, if I spend more money on lunch, that will make my life worse financially, right? Do you see what I'm saying? Like there's a correlation to like what you do with your assets and what you put into your body will either make your life worse or better. Like having a healthy diet, right? Like, listen, I am not a vegan or a vegetarian. I'm nowhere near it. I love me some steak. I love it. But, you can't be eating steak every single day. You can't be eating red meat every single day. It's not, your body's not built to break that much red meat down. You know what I mean? Like, you got to pace yourself out a little bit. Right? We all know that. We all know that because of science and because of, years and years. By the way, that when you see old people with the turkey neck, you know what causes that? It's too much red meat. Because when you eat meat, right? When you eat steak, and I'm sorry to go off on this tangent, like when you eat red meat, your saliva is the first form of acid that goes to work on that meat to start breaking it down so that your body can digest it, right? And saliva comes from glands that you have in your mouth and throat, right? And turkey neck, that's the result of those glands that have been working overtime their whole life. They're swollen. That's why people have turkey neck. So if you want to avoid turkey neck, you better find an environmental balance between you and red meat. You know what I mean? Because if you don't train your body to be able to break down meat when that's what it's being served, you're gonna have your body is gonna manifest certain things, and it's gonna look funny when you're old. So the point is little things, right? There's little things, and I say all of that to say that, and this is you're going to, some of you are gonna roll your eyes at how I tie this into what I'm actually getting at. But I hope that this connects more than it, to the same degree that it does connect in my mind, right? Like to me, this is perfectly clear, but I completely understand that this might not be clear to you. Folks, did you ever look around, in the last, 15, 20 years? Did you ever look around and just think to yourself, like, when did everybody start going crazy? Right? Has that thought occurred to you? Like, not like where you hit just a moment of clarity as alcohol, or what do they call it in Alcoholics Anonymous? Not a moment of clarity, but like an epiphany, or a moment of clarity where just like, where you're just standing there completely removed from emotions and just look around going, what is happening here? What's happening? Okay, everybody's crazy. When did everybody start going crazy, right? I mean, for me, in my own personal journey, I started looking around thinking, when did everybody start going crazy? And then the thought occurred to me that, like, if you're looking around and thinking that everybody's crazy, everybody except you, then you're the crazy one, right? Then you're the narcissist. You know what I mean? You're the insane person. And I really had a hard time with that, but I was like, it was hard to deny. It's like you're looking around and people are just letting, on both sides, Republicans, Democrats, whatever, everybody's just, fellow Americans are just giving politicians a pass to do horrible things, and they don't say anything because it's like, well, that guy's on my team. I'm going to let that guy do horrible things because that guy's on my team. It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. No, that's the thing that he's doing. That's crazy. That guy, and when you sit there and make excuses for that person, that's insane. Don't you see? Like, that's crazy. And it's hard when you're looking at that and you're seeing that, all the people, and the only people that you can see, which means that, to your eyes, it looks like it's everybody. And everybody's gone crazy. And everybody's saying, it's okay for President Bush to, pass the Patriot Act, and it's okay for Barack Obama to send billions of dollars to Iran, and it's okay that Hillary Clinton, we never got answers on Benghazi, and that's, you know what I mean? And everybody on both sides is just giving their politicians a pass, and then their righteous indignation only arrives when it's somebody on the other team. That's crazy. Did you ever, has it ever occurred to you, that thought of when did this happen? Am I crazy because since I'm the only one, or I feel like I'm the only one that's looking at this the right way? I feel like I'm surrounded by crazy people. That means that either everybody else is crazy, or most likely I'm the crazy person, right? Only a narcissist, only a sociopath would look around and think that everybody else is crazy. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of a scary thing. But you got to ask yourself, as far as I'm concerned, the jury is out. We've arrived at the conclusion. There's things going on right now that it's okay, the Democrats and leftists and neoliberals, right? Not classic liberals, but new liberals, and progressives, whatever. They're all beginning to embrace pedophilia. That's not a conspiracy theory. You can see it. It's happening. When did this happen? When did everybody start going crazy? When did this? You know what I mean? If that represents everybody in the world, and I'm the only one looking at it no, that's crazy, then guess what? Everybody in the world is crazy except me. You know what I mean? Now I know that you're listening to this thinking, yeah, Pete, I'm against pedophilia too. I know. But you know what I'm saying? When you see it, you see it in the news, and you see it on Facebook and Twitter and whatever, you see that ball starting to roll down the hill of these people that are advocating for pedophilia, and to protect pedophiles. When you see that, it's you feel alone in that. Is this the way the world's going? And I'm the only person that's reasonable still? You know what I mean? When it first hits you, and then, you'll turn on the Arch Advocate podcast and hear old Petey, ranting about it, and then you're like, oh, cool, it's not just me. All right, finally, I know now that I'm not. If I am crazy, at least I'm not alone in it, because that guy thinks the same thing that I think. That's the importance of community. But that's not the point I was trying to get to. I was trying to get you to join me in this quest of when did this happen? When was it, we just saw a communist, right? We just found John Brennan, a communist, was running the CIA. Am I the only one who sees the problem in this? And furthermore, why was this not made a bigger deal of by Fox News in, 2013, when he assumed control of the CIA? Why was there not rioting in the streets? Why were there not other patriots like me Why were there not people coming together and arming themselves and marching on Washington and saying, no, 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 no? We have laws. We have laws that are federal laws about communism and about communists being a part of our federal government. We have laws, right? That means that, like, if you were to arm yourself and get together, use your Second Amendment, which is to arm yourselves and get together with your friends and form a militia, we would have been in our rights to march on this. No, we have laws, and you're trying to put a communist in charge of the CIA. That means that the actual government, the people of the United States, need to intervene. And they need to do so with weapons because those people have weapons. You know what I mean? And you could be sitting there thinking like, oh, Pete, you're talking violent, stuff. You're talking about arming yourselves and bringing harm to U.S. citizens. It's like, no. In this nation, we have laws. We have laws. We are a nation of laws, right? And we have a law, an act of Congress that forbids that from ever happening. We have a law on the books that should have prevented John Brennan from not only becoming the head of the CIA, but ever holding any sort of federal job. Even that particular law, right? That particular act of Congress that is against communism, it would have, if anybody had pressed the issue properly, it would have prevented John Brennan from emptying garbage professionally at a national park. Right? National park people, those are federal employees. Right? God bless them, right? That's one of the only examples of bureaucracy that I can say that I'm a big fan of is, national park rangers. But do you understand what I'm saying? Like, a national park ranger is a federal government employee. And had the law that prevents communists from being a part of the federal government would have prevented John Brennan from even being allowed to pick up garbage professionally in a national park. But that's not the job he went for. He went for the head of the CIA and he got it. And evidently Rand Paul was the only person screaming about it, and I never heard of it. I never heard it. Did you? Did you hear about it? I didn't. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I'm on crazy pills. Because there seems to be this thing with Fox News and conservative thinkers. Now, I am a conservative. I'm a Christian. I am registered to vote Republican. And I can get into explaining, like, I'm registered to vote Republican, but somewhere in my heart, the only reason why is because I understand that we truly do have a two-party system, which is very against what the founding, fathers wanted for this country. But, me voting Republican really comes down to a lesser of two evils kind of scenario. But I don't want to get into that. People like me, people like us, we tend to watch Fox News because we're damn sure not going to watch CNN, right? Not going to watch MSNBC. Because we know. But you understand, like, the same thing is happening with Fox News to a different degree, maybe a less egregious degree, but the same thing that we accuse CNN of doing, Fox News does it pretty regularly. Now, there's things about Fox News that I like. I like Tucker Carlson. Right? Well, let's just use that, because I think I've said this before. Like, I'm a big fan of Tucker Carlson. I like his work. I like where he's coming from. But the fact is that the format of that show is just like every other format of every other show on Fox News and every other show on MSNBC and CNN and whatever. It's like, hey, let's have this person on that we don't agree with, and let's talk over one another for 3 to 5 minutes and then cut to commercial and then it's over. It's like, that's not... You're feeding people mental candy. It's not good for them. You can't have a conversation. You cannot explore the depths of what somebody actually believes in that amount of time. All you can do is get sound bites. That's the only thing that can come of that. It's not good. That's why it's important you listen to podcasts. Podcasting on YouTube and podcasting on audio podcasts, like, it's the only way that you're going to get long form conversations. It's the only way. You will not get it on CNN, Fox News, or MSNBC. You won't get it because you can't. Those people are beholden to their advertisers. I'm not beholden to anybody but you. Right? Like, when I have, guests on, it's like, I'll talk as long as I want. And I'll think whatever I want at the end of it, You get some of these people in long form conversations, unscripted. You'll be able to see, what the truth is. Had we been able to talk long form with John McCain, we would have found out a long time ago that he was a traitor and had no interest in preserving the republic. I believe that. And a lot of these other people. Right? You're never going to get to the truth. I think that's one of the biggest factors of, like, how it is that the American people, you and me, I'm going to say I, but I mean all of us. I mean you. By I just hear the word you. All right? I believe that the reason why I let John Brennan become head of the CIA was because I don't have access to who that man actually was. Right? That needs to be fixed. The media needs to shift. That much is true. And, I'm a bigger fan of Fox News than any other mainstream media outlet, but just barely. Right? I would like to see that organization change, and the only way to do that is take their money away from them. And how do you do that? You remove your viewership. You tune it out. And you take your business somewhere else, but you have to do that function of taking your business somewhere else, right? There has to be a destination that you can go. Now, it can be the Mark Levin podcast. It can even be, Hardcore History with Dan Carlin. Like, if you truly want to see the days that we're living in clearer, listen to Dan Carlin's podcast. He doesn't talk about things that are going on today. He talks about history. And you really start to see, like, oh, this human condition thing, it's always been this way. So what has changed, right? And this was what I was starting to show off with, is like little changes. The way that we got to where we are right now, where there's so many crazy people, where we have Congresswoman Maxine Waters calling for violence and did not get arrested, right? We have politicians that are beginning to champion the cause of pedophilia, and they've not been arrested or assassinated or anything. They've not even been harassed, right? They've not been called to task or anything. You know what I mean? Nancy Pelosi gets on TV and champions the cause of MS-13 and calling them, people that have the divine spark. And there's no outrage, right, from Democrats. How did we get so crazy? Could it be that there were little things, right? Little things that changed over time, day by day, day by day, by day by day. Could it be that having 70% of the American population on medication, could that be a factor? Right? Over 70% of Americans, that's everybody, right? 70% of people living in the United States right now have chemical prescription drugs in their body right now, at this very moment. 70%. 3/4 almost. 2/3. Right? 36, yeah. It's almost 3/4. 70%. Are you going to sit there and think like, oh no, that's normal? Or that's good? Right? Like we were talking about earlier, like what you put into your body. Because, the thing that most people would say to that argument, and probably rightfully so, is like, well, yeah, Pete, but, there's a lot of people that are on cholesterol medication, right? They got to keep their cholesterol in check. or they're on medication because they have gout, right? They've got this horrible thing that happens with their joints. You know, they've got gout, they've got arthritis, maybe they've got the shingles. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of people on medication for things that don't have anything to do with, you know, your mentality. But it's like, well, okay, well, you say that, but we now know that your mind, the operation of your mind, changes based on anything that you put into it. When you go to the mountains and breathe mountain fresh, clean air, you can feel it in your brain immediately. We know that. So even air, even the quality of your air is going to affect your mind. And the more additives that are in your air, the worse your brain functions, right? And we know, like for breakfast, right? You have a choice. We'll just keep this real simple. You can either have a bowl of grape nuts for breakfast, which is basically like eating raw acorns that have been rolled in dirt, right? My mom used to make me eat grape nuts every day when I was a kid. Thank God for it too. That stuff's really good for you. You can either have a bowl of grape nuts, or you can have a bowl of crunch berries, right? Bowl of Captain Crunch, crunch berries. Big old fat bowl of sugar. Now, they're both food, right? They're both, you know what I mean? You can put them both in your body will break both of them down. Which one of those is going to make you feel tired, lethargic, angry, emotional? You know what I mean? And which one of them is going to make you feel good because it's going to help you have, you know, a cleaner bowel movement. It's going to help you, you know, help your body, detoxify itself. Like one, you know what I mean? One of those two bowls of cereal are, those bowls of cereals are going to have very different effects on your brain. Even though neither of those foods were designed to have anything to do with your brain. Now, why did I just say all that? Well, the point is like what you put in your body will have a direct effect on your brain. It doesn't matter what it's for. It's going to affect your mind. Do you agree with that? I mean, is there any scientists out there that would disagree with that? Whatever you put into your belly, whatever you put into your lungs, is going to affect your brain. No matter what. It's going to affect it for better or it's going to affect it for worse, but either way, it's going to affect it. There's no getting around that. So when you look around and you see the stats that it's over 70%, 340 million people in the United States, right? 3 out of 4 of them are on chemicals of some sort. And a lot of them are chemicals that are directly designed to change the way that people think. But the fact is that like 70% of people are on drugs. 70% of people are on drugs. Their chemistry has been altered for whatever reason. It could be something as simple as gout or keeping the shingles. Now, I've never had shingles, but it looks awful and painful and whatever. But it's like, look, and listen, if you have shingles, right? If you have gout, if you are on some sort of medication, I'm not telling you like you're a bad person or anything. What I'm saying is like you've been changed, right? 70% of Americans are on drugs. And it would appear that you know what I mean? Like, is it possible, right? Like I said, like if there's one thing that you can do today to make your life worse, wouldn't becoming dependent on pharmaceutical medication, could that not be lumped into that category? 70% of people in America are on drugs. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Well, I think, Pete, that in some cases it's good. No. I'm just talking overall. Now, the argument could be made, well, yeah, but Pete, I mean, the evidence is clear. The science is in. People are living longer these days. Well, that's not really clear. People are certainly not dying as quickly as they used to, but is that a good thing? You say that we're living longer. I could very easily make the argument and with demonstration and proof that we're not living longer. We're dying longer. Right? I'll give you here's a perfect example. And this is I'm sorry for going off on a tangent, but like socialism, right? Sam, the liberal, came on the show a week or two ago, and he says, in that interview, he says, well, we already do have socialism in America, and we do. We certainly do. Hold on, I'm going to take a sip of my coffee here. We do have socialism in America, and it needs to be eradicated because there's not a single example of it that's good. And you want to talk about the idea of living longer as it applies to socialized medicine. If you want to form your argument for socialized medicine, putting the healthcare needs of the United States into the hands of bureaucrats who they themselves are neither doctors nor economists, right? You just want to put the responsibility of healthcare into the hands of professional bureaucrats. Literally, people that dress like rodeo clowns, right? The lady from Miami, she dresses like a clown. She's a clown. You want to put people like her, Maxine Waters, and that lady, and Nancy Pelosi, they are career politicians. They're bureaucrats. You want to put your healthcare into their hands? Really? Why? They're not doctors. They're not economists. Why would you do that? Well, here's what you do. Here's how you form a fully educated opinion on this subject. Now, if you live your life in a certain way and make lots and lots and lots of money, right? When you die, you can leave your wife enough money so that she can live in a very nice home, right? Where she can be tended, her needs can be tended to around the clock. It's very expensive. But most people don't do that, and by most I mean almost all. Almost everybody in America will not do that. And so when you get old and your kids lose interest in taking care of you because we don't raise our kids to do that anymore, when that happens, you will go to a state-run medical facility, right? And they are all around you. They're all around you, and they are in places that you wouldn't even think that would be going on. But you can go right now, and I strongly recommend that you do because it's your future. I challenge you to go look at your future by doing this. Look for the nearest state-funded, either the state that you live in or the federal government, which it's always going to be a combination of the two. But go look at how old people live when they are being taken care of by a bureaucracy. And then you will have a clear and definite picture in your mind of your opinion, you know what I mean, on socialized medicine in the United States. Because what you're going to see is the ultimate, the end result of what happens when healthcare is placed into the hands of a state bureaucracy. And it's horrific. And you can see it. It's happening right in your neighborhood. You can get yourself to a state-run elderly care center within wherever you are within 20 minutes. Right? They're in places that you wouldn't even think to look, right? Because it's a bureaucracy, like they have to buy cheap land, they have to buy cheap buildings. They also have to, their employees, they have to get employees who are willing to work for $10 an hour or $8 an hour. Right? You go down to one of those old folks' homes and you tell me, like, this, are you saying you want this to be the state of all medical care in the United States for everybody? Right? Because what goes on in those state-funded elderly care facilities they are medical facilities. That's what they are. That's what's by the way, that's what's going to happen to you one day. Just so you know. Right, if you go and look at that is actually what's in your future. You're gonna get there someday, unless you make a whole bunch of money, right? Unless you dedicate from this day forward to learning how to invest and learning how to better your business and whatever, like that is inevitable in your future if you don't change your ways. But aside from all that, it's like you want to make the case for socialism in America. You can see socialism in America in many different ways, but when it comes to medical care, you can actually see what socialized medicine looks like in America. We already have it. Go down to your local old folks home that is run by the government, not the rich fancy ones, but the ones that are run by the government. And that's what's in your future. That's what's in the future for America if people like Bernie Sanders ever get their way. That's what all medication, all medical facilities, all medical care, that's what it will look like. That's what those people are hoping for. Right? And so again, like the question is like, when did this happen? When did all of this happen? When did people start going so crazy? Well, I mean, I'm sure 70% of Americans being dosed at all times had something to do with it, right? 70% of anything is that's a large section. You know what I mean? It's almost all of it. And almost all Americans are on drugs right now. You're going to tell me that doesn't have something to do with it? And if you're on medication, look, get into nutrition. Read every book about nutrition. You know what I mean? Change your ways. Change your ways, man. Get off the drugs. There is a war on right now for your soul. And if you're doped out of your gills, or doped up to your gills, like you're not going to make it, man. You're fodder. You're cannon fodder. You know what I mean? Like it's not, you cannot, you have to take care of your mind. Right? You have to, you are in like your body, for example. You have this meat machine that you live in, right? You have a skeleton, you have, organs and muscles and sinew and a nervous system and like all this, aside from your brain, like you have this body, and if you don't take care of it, it's going to break down and you will be weak. And that weakness will make you vulnerable. And then, because of your vulnerability will bring about every man's worst nightmare, and that is to be subdued by another man. Right? If you don't take care of your body, you will be subdued. You will be subdued. Not 99% more likely to be subdued. No. If your body is weak, you will be subdued. If your mind is weak, you will be subdued. Mentally. You will be taken over. And what it looks like to me, with all of this stuff coming out in the media and nobody questions it, I was never told that an actual communist was nominated for the seat of director of the CIA. I didn't hear anything about that. Right? But, other people did, and evidently nobody did anything. Why is that? How did this happen? How was it that there was not guns and bloodshed and songs being written and movies being made about, that fateful day when America stood up and said, no, we're not going to have a communist as the damn director of the CIA? Why? How did this happen? When did everybody become so apathetic and weak and subduable? Is that even a word? I don't know if subduable. I may have just made that up. But you got to ask yourself, man, like when did all this start? And furthermore, like what part do I have in this? Do I have any responsibility in this? If so, I need to find it and make sure that I don't drop the ball again. We got to make sure that we don't drop the ball again. So those were just some thoughts I was having about, because I understand, like when you see what's happening, there is a very, like, your initial reaction, probably biologically speaking, is correct. Like, it's to feel like you're the only one who feels it, right? Because that's the reason I say it that way, is because like that's what everybody feels. And if everybody feels that way, then there's probably like a biological explanation, like a scientific, like something that someday that we're going to understand about science. But I just want to let you know, like, you're not alone. You're not alone. There's a lot of people who are looking at what's going on right now, and they're like, no, we're not going to let pedophilia be embraced. We're not going to do that. We're not going to let communists run our country. We have laws. We have laws that protect us from that. We're not going to be communists or socialists. We're not going to do that either. And we've allowed socialism to creep into our bureaucracy, and we're going to fix that now because we got too lazy and too apathetic in our riches and our wealth and our concerns with getting the bigger truck and the nicer TV and the whatever, better fishing boats so that our friends would like us more, whatever it was, but no more. We're not concerned about that anymore. I don't care what my friends think of the car I drive. I care about what happens to my republic. I care about the world that my children are going to grow up in, because if we're not very careful about what we do next, there is a war coming, and it's coming soon. And if it's not in our generation, right? If it's not in the next 5 years or 10 years, then it's definitely in the next 30, and that puts our children squarely in the line of fire, right? The onus for you to raise up your own children and raise them up strong and raise them up with the knowledge of who they are as people, who they are as Americans, who they are spiritually. Those things are now, coming into focus for most of us, I would say, right? To prepare your children for what's coming, because it's coming and it's not going to be easy. It's not going to end quickly. We have no idea of to what extent the communists have infiltrated our system. We know it's big enough that one of them made it to the head of the CIA, right? We know that. That's usually indicative of a much bigger problem, right? He's just the head of the pimple. How deep does that zit go? How much goo is in there, right? I think we're all about to find out. And so you need to be prepared. You need to prepare yourself, prepare your children. And how do you do that? Well, start feeding yourself different things, right? Start feeding yourself, literally different foods. Eat clean food. Take care of your meat suit. Take care of your body. Take care of your brain. Have you been thinking lately, man, somehow I just wish that I could just, if I could just start my day off with just 5 minutes of meditation, I feel like I would be better. If I could just shut my mind off for 5 minutes, like one of the first 5 minutes of the day, I feel like I could get through my day without feeling so overwhelmed and confused and frustrated and whatever. Well, it's true. And all you got to do is do it. You know what I mean? All you got to do is say, okay, at 6:45 tomorrow, I'm going to 6:50, I'm just going to sit there and be quiet and say nothing and think nothing. And then you have to do it. And from there, it will grow, right? You will begin to feel the effects immediately, right? You do that for 5 minutes, you're going to have profound questions after that 5 minutes, right? Why is it that these 5 minutes, it was so hard for me to keep my focus on just the inside of my eyelids? Why did I keep thinking about my iPhone? Why did I keep thinking about Facebook? Why is it that I don't have any control over my thoughts and my thoughts just naturally gravitate towards social media and the problems of this world? Why? You know what I mean? You're going to have those kind of questions. And then that rabbit hole just gets deeper and deeper and deeper. And then you start learning how to ask real hard questions. And then, God help you, you're going to start getting some answers. And a lot of those answers they're hard, right? They're hard. It's like fasting, I'm speaking from personal experience. When you fast, one of the first things that you realize, one of the first spiritual, curtains that is pulled back, that your mind gets illuminated to when you fast, usually about towards the end of day one, certainly about the middle of day two of fasting. One of the first great revelations that you're going to have is, wow, I think about food a lot. Why do I think about food so much? It takes over 40 days to die of starvation. Why on day one am I obsessed with food? You know what I mean? I'm in no danger of dying of starvation. Why am I thinking about this so much? You know what I mean? That may not sound profound to you, but if it doesn't, it's because you've never fasted. You know what I mean? But for those of you that have ever practiced a full-on nothing but water fast, you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? So be better, right? Oh God, I just quoted Michelle Obama. Be better, right? Feed yourself better things. Exercise, right? Read books. Meditate, right? Take 5 minutes or 2 minutes or 30 minutes, whatever it is that you're able to do, whatever it is that you can tolerate. Get control of your mind, because there are other people right now that are trying very hard to control it for you, and they see it. They see like, oh, there's a 70% chance that this person is weakened, and I can control their thoughts. Don't get subdued. Don't allow yourself to be in a position to be subdued. Because anybody looking to subdue you does not have your best intentions at heart. And if you don't believe me, go to your local old folks home that is being paid for by the federal government. That's it for today, guys. If you want to support the show, go on to archadvocate.com, arch-advocate.com. Hit subscribe on this YouTube show if you're watching it on that. Hit subscribe on any platform that you're listening to this podcast on. If you want to give some money, monthly or otherwise, you can click on Patreon, you can click on PayPal. All monies are appreciated. I'm trying to get the show to be a lot more cooler, so microphones and green screens and all that other stuff. Like, I want that stuff, man. I want to have a cool show. I want to be YouTube famous, man. I just want to be more famous than a Instagram cat, right? That's when you've hit the big time. Thanks for listening. I appreciate you guys even listening. Listen, man, you guys have thousands of podcasts to choose from, and you listen to this one. How do I know that? Because we're 50 minutes into it and you're still here. Thank you for that. I appreciate you. And if you haven't already, go on to my YouTube channel and hit subscribe to that as well. That's it for today. That's it for the week. I will talk to you on Monday. Bye-bye.